For Guys YouTube channel here. I want to talk a little bit about polygyny, patriarchy, matriarchy. The reason this is coming about is I was watching a YouTube video and a guy was just bashing men, and so I left him a comment, and basically in the comment I'm explaining how while yes, men are having problems in society, women are having problems, everybody's having a problem in the society we live in, and these problems are the symptom of a bigger cause, and the bigger cause is the lack of a patriarchy. So because there's no patriarchy, yes, men are acting feminine. Because there's no patriarchy, yes, men are using and abusing women. Because there's no patriarchy, women are sleeping around, accumulating huge body counts, unable to pair bond with men. Okay, so you can't just point the finger at one person. What we have to first do is take a step back and realize and understand that the problems in society have been perpetrated upon society by the devil, by Satan himself. Satan has been successful in removing the patriarchy through Greco-Romantic traditions. Most would say Greco-Roman, but where we get the word romantic is from the word Roman, which we know the Roman Catholic Church, right? The Romantic Catholic Church. I don't want to get off track here, but so this is the problem. The problem is we have no patriarchy. So I'm not going to go around bashing men, right? Because the problem is there's no patriarchy. And I went on to say in my comment to this gentleman in this video that if under a patriarchy, under polygyny, the matriarchy cannot exist. It's impossible. A matriarchy cannot exist under polygyny. Likewise, under matriarchy, polygyny can't exist, right? So this is why it's important. This is why I'm a proponent of polygyny, because reinstating polygyny and getting rid of monogamy only. Look, I don't have a problem with monogamy. If you only want to have one wife your whole life, that's fine. That's not a sin. That's fine. The problem is enforcing monogamy only is the problem, okay? So this is why I'm a proponent of polygyny. Now, I get accused by a lot of people of lusting, of having a hard heart, when I am the last person to be accusing of that. Since my wife left me almost 4 years ago, I have not committed fornication. So, and I've had opportunities, and I could commit fornication. It's not hard in this day and age to commit fornication. It's a very easy thing. I understand there are lots of men who haven't, who can't. That's not my problem, okay? I have the confidence to do it. May not be the best looking guy in the world. I have the confidence I could commit fornication. I've had many opportunities already. I've had married women hit on me. I don't go there. I don't mess with that. I don't have a hard heart. I don't lust. I'm not trying to just get my rocks off. That's not what this is about. This is about godliness. This is about restoring the patriarchy. What's better for society, what's better for women, what's better for children. It's better for children to have fathers. It's better for women to be covered by men. It's better for men to be men, to come out of the shell, to come out of the shame that they're under, right? To leave them with no options other than to go fornicate and commit adultery, okay? So my position on polygyny is a position of love. People want to say, oh, well, under polygyny, all these sins happen, and this guy murdered somebody who had 2 wives. And okay, look, the first sin that ever occurred, not the first sin, but the first murder came from a monogamy-only situation. I could throw a rock blindfolded and hit somebody that's been affected by sin of monogamy only. Okay, every person watching this video has been affected by a monogamy-only sin in their family. Even perfect families have been affected by the sin of monogamy only that exists in monogamy-only families. Okay, so yes, sin typically will tend to get magnified in polygyny, but that's just because it has so many enemies and so many people against it, because there's been so much brainwashing, okay? But as much or more sin exists in monogamy only. Look, we live in a fallen world, okay? The world is fallen. The world is, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. That's not going to change under polygyny. It's not going to change under monogamy. My feeling, though, is that through monogamy only, restoring the patriarchy, putting man back in its proper place is the way God intended it to be. It's the way God designed it. It's God's original intent. It's His original design. And if we adhere to that, we will see positive changes. We'll see a reduction in homosexuality. We'll see a reduction in fatherless children. We'll see a reduction in women sleeping around. It'll put things back on track the way they're supposed to be, because it puts the responsibility and the power back into the man's hand, which is where it belongs. I want to use an example. There's a man that I had subscribed to. I was watching him. His name is Pastor Dowell. And a lot of people apparently that I know and who kind of study the same things I do had started to watch this Pastor Dowell guy around the same time. Turns out we now call him Dirty Dowell, because we found out one of his wives, he actually stole from another man. And he was successful in coercing this woman who probably was attracted to him and into getting a divorce from her husband, which is unbiblical, which a woman cannot divorce her husband under any circumstances whatsoever. But here's one thing I want to point out about this. A lot of people are like, oh, see, polygyny, Pastor Dowell had three wives. One of them belonged to another man, an adulterer, But here's what I want to point out, and this is what I'm pleased with other men that believe in polygyny. This is what I'm happy about. The other men that have these beliefs, what did they do? They didn't just sweep it under the rug. That this man that was called Pastor Dowell had a wife who belonged to another man. No, they called him out. They stood up against it. See, under monogamy only, people just kind of close their eyes. They shut their ears. They shut their mouths. They don't say anything about it. They might whisper and gossip, right? At church or to different people. Oh yeah, so-and-so, has another wife, or so-and-so has another girlfriend and doing this. And oh, did you hear about his wife? That's what they do. They resort to gossip. Nobody stands up against it. You never hear a pastor call a man out for fornication or adultery or a woman. Oh, he'll never call out a woman. No, he'll never call out a woman. Right? Women can go to pastors and have the man called out, but the pastor will never call out the woman, because it's a matriarchy. And he won't do that. Because where the woman goes, the congregation goes. And he knows that. And he needs the women for the money. Because the women say, honey, pay the man. Put the money in there. We're going to church. Drags the man off to church, right? So one of the things I like about if you want to call it a polygynous community or polygynous group or however you want to call it, they stood up against Pastor Dowell. Yeah, he still has his inner circle, right? Because a lot of people still go to him. But the people not in his inner circle, even at least one man that was in his inner circle, at least two men, stood up against him and said, this isn't acceptable. This is not acceptable that you have another man's wife. See, for a long time, nobody knew that. But then it came out and it was exposed. And when it came out and it was exposed, people stood up against it. So that's one of these things. A lot of people try to bring shame on the polygynous society right now because that occurred. Oh, see, that's what happens with polygyny. No. That's what happens everywhere because of sin. That happens in monogamy because of sin. That happens in polygyny because of sin. But the difference is in polygyny, the men stood up. The men were patriarchal. The men were real men of Yah, of God, of the Creator. They stood up against that. They didn't just shut their mouths, shut their eyes, and close their ears. They took a stand against it and called him out. And now he's paying the price for it. His ministry's rapidly decreasing. All kinds of things are being exposed in him now. Because the men in polygyny are real men who took a stand. That doesn't mean that any one of them are exempt from sin hitting their family. And all people really wanted was Pastor Dowd to admit he was wrong, wanted to see him repent, wanted to see him give that woman back to her lawful husband and let him put her away for her adultery. But he wouldn't do that. He kept trying to hide it, fight it. And now he's losing his ministry. So that's one of these reasons I am for polygyny. Don't go and judge me as being lustful, as so many have done. Don't go and judge me as being a fornicator, having a hard heart, as many have done. Because what I'm doing is out of love for society. I'm doing this out of love for my neighbor, out of love for the fatherless children, out of love for the uncovered women. The problem is people that accuse me, they don't have love. They have is brainwashing. See, they believe in the matriarchal church system. They believe that if you don't go to church, you're going to hell. And the reality is, most people in church are going to hell. The reality is, by going to church, you're increasing your odds of going to hell. Because to become part of that church, you have to become part of false doctrine. Right? So, it's why I'm pro-polygyny. Yes, there's going to be problems. We live in a fallen world. There's always going to be sin. There's always going to be sin. Until Christ returns, there's going to be sin. Right? So, the best odds of society for getting rid of the homosexuals, for getting rid of the high body counts in women, for getting rid of the fatherless children, is through polygyny. Polygyny has the fingerprints of God on it. God is the husband of more than one wife. Christ used the parable of the 10 virgins. He wouldn't use himself as an example as a sinner. God regulates polygyny in the Bible. He wouldn't regulate sin. It's actually prescribed in the Levirate law, where a man is supposed to take his brother's wife if they dwell together and the brother had no children and he dies. Then his brother is supposed to take his wife to give seed unto him. Because you want to know why this is? I'll tell you why this is. Because the brother that died had already been with the wife and put seed in her. That seed becomes one flesh with her. It's scientific truth. When a man goes into a woman, his DNA goes into her and they become one flesh. And so by his brother going into him, it's allowing the DNA from the dead brother to have life, thereby giving him his inheritance, his children's inheritance. And that's the purpose of the Levirate law, and that's why it is prescribed, not described, prescribed in the Bible. Bold for Christ YouTube channel. Out. God bless.